Hello, welcome to the Women's Summit. Today we have the amazing Lisa Wendler with us today, and she is going to tell us a little bit about what she does, and it's incredible. I'm like really excited to have you here, Lisa, telling us. So just give us a little bit about your background, what you do and why you do it, and then we'll talk about what that has to do with customers and bringing customers into your business and into your sphere of influence.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Sharon, for doing this. This is so exciting because my niche, my avatar is women. And it came from kind of a background history. So 2001, I left ER trauma nursing. So my pursuit was I was going to be an ER nurse, and that was going to be my world. And September 11th hit, and I walked out on September 12th. And what I did from 2001 through 2016 was therapy work for horses. So I didn't come from the digital marketing space. I didn't come from online. All my business really was word of mouth. And I've traveled behind Kentucky. I've traveled into the big races down into California, Washington State, where I'm based out of. And Funnel Hacking Live was a pivotal point for me in 2016. What happened was my intent was to go there to maximize my business in horses and take care of more horses, train more therapists, and that's what we were going to do. Well, July 17th, 2016, a girlfriend of mine that was a high up-and-coming trainer in the horse racing industry committed suicide. And we worked together for 7 years. Like literally slept on bales of hay. We traveled together. We did all of those behind the scenes, like 17-hour days, sometimes even more, taking care of horses in therapy and bringing them from like a throwaway horse to a stakes horse. Mm-hmm. And I was completing a personal trip. Actually, it was 205 miles, Seattle to Portland bike ride. And as I was crossing into the finish line, all of these messages started coming up on my phone, and I was waiting for the results of this horse that was up and coming, and he broke on the track. Mm-hmm. Later that night, the story is that she jumped from a bridge and committed suicide. Well, in the midst of all this, I was doing my certified partner course through ClickFunnels, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I mean, I spent 15 years in the industry providing therapy. I loved doing what I was doing, and I really had to take a time to step back. I graduated with that course completion. I come from psychology base. I come from therapy base. I come from all of this background and working with women primarily in the horse racing industry, other trainers I worked with. And the one common thread is that they're all hustler type women. They work hard, and they work hard for what they want. And it's a very competitive men's world. I mean, if you watch Kentucky Derby or anything, it's mostly all men trainers, high-end men trainers. So that winter, I didn't leave. And so normally I would have left down to California. And that winter I stayed home. So in 2016 was my big, oh my gosh, now what? So I went through a grieving process. I went back and really just took care of me. And I put myself into the situation of, you are really one of the women that you've mentored. You are really one of these women that you now need to take care of you. And so I did. And then I went to another funnel hacking inside 2017. And I was like, so now what? Do I either go back to the racing industry and go back to like this passion love, or do I really start building business from online? So that's what I did. I started researching, and I found women that fit this profile 7 layers deep. And this is what I talk about, and this is what I teach with women now inside my group. And I started cultivating and finding out who they were and where did they hang out and what did they like, what did they not like, what was their favorite color. I mean, it was, and for me, I'm on a disc profile system with Tony Robbins. He provides that for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I'm a high D and a high C, and I love the research. So it just fit right in line with everything I had already learned. And that's what I did. I put everything that I learned from the certified partner, everything that I've provided to my group now is all from behind the scenes marketing books. I mean, I'm an avid reader. I do all of this routine. And I started cultivating. And I was like, you know what? If I can help one woman with this like crazy monkey brain that all of us women have, that says, no, you can't do that, and no, you shouldn't be doing that, and maybe society wants you to do this, or maybe your spouse is telling you to do this. And my husband was like, baby, you do what you want to do. You really do what you want to do. You know, if you want to go back into the racing industry, go back in the racing industry, build business and do that. If you really want to break, then take the break. And I was like, yeah, and I was talking myself out of it. And in the meantime, I was finding women, and one woman and two women and three women. And these women started congregating, and then they started inviting their friends. And I was just creating content. I was speaking from my heart, because no one cares about the fluff. And people want to connect, and they want to connect, whether it's through online, whether it's through sitting down, having coffee together. No matter what it is, they want to connect. And that snowballed. And I don't know how to do Facebook ads. Some people are like, oh my gosh, just go do Facebook ads and you can get all these people. Well, I didn't know how to do that. So every 3 hours, I was creating content, and I was creating posts, and I was speaking from the heart, and I was explaining what does it feel like to grieve. And some days were good and some days weren't. And I showed all of that. I mean, some days I had makeup on and some days I didn't. And some days my kids were going nutty, and sometimes my dogs were barking. And it went from 0 to over 100,000 women in less than 10 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know, what happened in that process is that I didn't realize building so quickly and so fast what came with that. And because for 15 years, the racing industry was word of mouth. And so what came with that was like haters, and a lot of haters came in. And I would get some women, and it was never guys, saying, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And I kept a picture of Monique, the gal that committed suicide, in my front room. So every morning I would see her. And so when the haters came, that was like my why. You know what? Maybe they won't understand my story, or maybe they won't understand why am I doing this. Maybe they won't, but I'm doing it for another woman, and I'm doing it for another human that doesn't experience the grief process and going through. And if I could save one, that was my intent, save one with empowerment, that you can just be you. Because Monique, at 37 years of age, was beautiful. On the outside, no one knew. And I knew when I started getting the messages back, we can't find Monique, something was seriously wrong. And so that Monday morning, I remember sitting on the couch going, oh my gosh, everything. And she wasn't responding to my messages. She wasn't responding to my voicemails. She wasn't responding to anything. I said, you know what? I need to step back, take care of me. And everything that she used to tell me, Lise, you got to share all this. You got to share all this. And I'm like, no, you're the extrovert. I'm the introvert. I'll take care of the horses. You go do your thing. All of this is because of that journey. And so now, you know, I share the most like exposed things that people are like, oh my gosh, Lise, you just shared how you have survived through abuse, and you have been thrown through walls and gone through stuff. Because to me, if I can help another woman say, you know what, it's okay, that happened, the situation is over, let's pick up and go. And so it really is building one step in front of the next, and it came like a monsoon. And so now what that has transpired into is smaller groups, secret behind the scenes, and one-on-one. So a lot of women I work with are anywhere from 3 months on up to about a year. I have some women that have been with me for over 2 years now, and their transformation has been awesome. Like, they were very closed down, and now they're just like this open beam of everything. And it's that is my gratifying, we're off the bridge. We took one step off the bridge and we kept moving.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So I've read a lot of your posts. You're an amazing writer. Is that your favorite mode of communication, writing like posts and blog posts and things, or I guess writing, or do you like doing video or combination, or what do you personally prefer or think is the best way to reach your people, your crowd?
My crowd is mostly a lot of readers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, and it's almost very much of an extension of myself. I read every single day, I implement. I journal every day, I implement. I started doing, last year was, hey, Lise, how about you share your journaling experience? And at the end of the year, my husband's like, oh my gosh, you did that for 353 days? Like, yeah, well, I started a little bit late in the year. So I didn't think of the idea of bringing on the journey. And so now every single morning, I do my journaling. I share my what we're going to talk about and coming on a journey. And what happens is that then it's, hey, can I get closer to you? I need to ask some more questions, and I don't want it blasted in a huge fan page.
Mm-hmm.
And so the invitation's out there, and emails and messaging. And I respond to all of my stuff. I have a team, a small team now, that helps with curating content. I give what I expect and what I need, but my whole group that started was all solo.
Mm-hmm.
I relied on like Canva and Usign and other apps that are out there to do design content cards, but I didn't even know how to do that. In 2016, that was blank slate. So when I look at some of my 2016, I'm like, oh my gosh, you really weren't a designer at all. And now I compare and I'm like, you've come along.
That's beautiful now. I guess I didn't see it 2 years ago, but the last year has been wonderful.
Thank you.
Following. I have kind of a similar path. I, was off the grid, male dominated world in corporate America, and then having my own businesses in, I guess it was the food industry, and really similar, but yeah, not very much trauma, I guess, personal trauma, but not anybody committing suicide, thankfully. But I see why that would help and attract people. And I love your writing and things. It's amazing. So I can see how you got 100,000 people in 10 months, but I still think that's phenomenal. That's just incredible. So obviously you put forth a ton of effort in cultivating, curating, and building that. I don't know, I just threw on the floor. Building that. As long as it's not spilling, I'm happy with it. That position. And so I know I'm seeing you on different platforms and things. Is that something that you're doing, or you have your team help you design, like the things on Instagram and the sayings and the graphics and things? They're gorgeous.
So every piece of content I've put together. Nice. Because I have a very specific voice. And so, so I'll utilize different quotes of Tony Robbins or different quotes of different influencers. Even Russell Brunson gets thrown in there every once in a while. I have Ryan Holiday, different depending on the message that I want to share. Because my fan page, even though it's Alpha Warrior Women, it is not about male, bashing and smashing. Yeah. It's about women owning their space and owning their own journey. Because the big thing is something I noticed when I was really searching, when I started, my story goes back to 2012 when I watched my son, which was 6 months old at the time, grand mal seizure, coming forward out of a seizure, blue lips. And that was my pivot point in life to go, gosh, I really need to be able to work from home, or I need to be able to spend more time with my kids. And in that moment, he was our sixth baby. And we didn't realize a genetic situation between my husband and I that we're both L-serine deficient. Well, all of our children are prone to seizure, epileptic, any brain cognitive, but we have a hard, difficult time absorption with B12s and CoQ10s and complexes. And so had he not had that seizure, and had I not been like, oh my gosh, it brought me back to ER trauma, my husband was yelling in the bed, that I was like, what am I doing? I'm getting ready to go back to the track. I'm getting ready to, all of these things that had that moment not happened, I would have never started picking up pieces. And what I discovered in like 2012 up to the 2016, it was like a 4-year process that I was really putting in the work of, let's figure out who you are. And you can't manage your husband. You can't manage your significant other, your wife. You can't manage your kids. You can't that's their journey. And me as a woman, I have to take care of me, because until I take care of me, I can't be anything to anyone else. And 2016 just put me in overhaul. take care of you. Because I can't serve anyone. I can't serve another woman at all unless I take care of me. I can't even serve my clients unless I take care of me. And so that is one hurdle I jump through with a lot of women of, okay, I love my children dearly. And I work in order to love them dearly, because if I just devoted all of my time to just my children, I would lose me again. And so we have 4 boys still left at home, like a fraternity house. So it's really nice to talk to women, Sharon.
I cut you off and I'm like, oh my God, she's like surrounded by boys. I grew up in a family of all girls. And so I think it's really weird that I grew up in a family of all girls, but I've always worked with almost all men. And so that's part of what attracted me to the Women's Summit thing. It's like, all right, most of my career, because I'm getting old, has been working with men. I get to choose now as I'm going online. I get to choose to work with women if I want to. So I'm going to choose that versus always working with men.
Yep,
I
hear you.
Switching my clientele over too, slowly but surely. I used to be predominantly men. Now I'm switching it around, and I'm like, okay, I'm not taking on really any more guys. I'm just taking on women. And they're like, you gonna ditch us? I'm like, no, I'll still work with you, but not forever. So get your act together.
Yeah, I do the same. I'm like, oh my gosh, and because of that DC personality type that I am, I do attract more of the men that are extroverts and up on stage, and they like the stage presence. Where I'm like, yeah, well, you can't really come into my closed group because you're just not going to fit.
You're not going to have fun in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Start a group for them someday, maybe. Maybe.
I don't know.
I think you've got enough. I think you've got enough on your plate to not have to do that. So if you had any advice for somebody up and coming or just starting their business or wherever they are in their business, because we always need to find ways to grow and enhance and do what we're doing better and serve people better. What do you think is the most important thing for a woman to do with respect to dealing with customers and handling customers or creating relationships with them for her business? What would be something that everybody actually would and should be doing, in your opinion?
I think every person, every entrepreneur needs to solve someone else's pain. Business has nothing to do with me. Business has to do with solving women's pain. And if that means that someone asks me a question and I don't know the answer, to be transparent enough with myself to say, you know what, I don't know the answer. Let me research that and let me get back to you. And when the switch goes from, hey, how much money can I make or how much tangible things can I have versus how can I serve you the most, business dynamically comes in. It comes in like a monsoon to the point that I'm like, okay, I say to my team, we're done. There's no more, shut down all of the appointment scheduling. Do not take any more appointments because I know my capacity and I never want to underserve my clients. And I think knowing your own capacity and serving clients is the biggest and fastest way to grow business. Some people are like, oh my gosh, you need to have this app or you need to have that app. No, you don't. You need to find out what their pain is, solve that pain. And if you can't, or if you don't know the knowledge to solve that pain, find someone that knows how to do it, bring them onto your team and say, hey, I have a project. This is what we're looking at. Can you help me? And span your collaboration network. I think collaboration networking is huge. Something like between you and I, hey, how can we serve more women? How can we give bits and pieces that someone could pick up and say, that works. And that can be implemented inside my business and it will fast track me faster. But when people are looking at, oh my gosh, I want to get this fancy car or I want to get this whatever, those tangible things, they're great to have goals and dreams and milestones. However, your client in front of you, that is the one. And by researching their pain points or finding out what their pain points are, it could be purely that, on a scale of building their own business, it could be they just don't know where to begin. Is it the first stage they're in? Is it the second stage they're in? The fifth stage? Maybe they're in the fifth stage and they can already leverage, but they just don't know how to cultivate. And so the cultivation piece and to get more leads in and how to provide more leads is, the art in itself of creating business. But it boils back down to who are you serving and what's their pain point? and going through layers of who that person is. Sometimes people,
layers, yeah.
Some people come into like first appointment and they're like, oh, well, the person I'm serving is a woman and she's between the ages of 20 to 25. Okay, so that's one layer, maybe two. We'll give two. Okay, so 20 to 25, and what does she like to do? What does she like to eat? Where does she eat? What's her favorite color? I mean, and because what happens is when you become 7 layers into who they are, then you know how to get to their bottom core. Maybe it's the wealth, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's fitness, maybe it's one of those 3 bubbles. But knowing how deep that person is where business comes forward. My bottom pain point for the women I serve is, how do I stop feeling like the world's caving in? You know, some of my women that come into my group are, how do I just get out of bed? I mean, they are so overwhelmed with what they have to do, or what society's telling them they should be doing, or what they want to do, or all those coulds or shoulds or wants and needs, and they just don't even know where to start. And so in that point is, okay, first things first, you're going to take 5 minutes to yourself every day. And you're going to shut out the noise. You're going to shut out the notifications. You're going to get rid of the notifications on your laptop. You're going to get rid of the notifications on your phone. The email, all that stuff has to wait. And does that mean that you wake up 5 minutes early? It might be. And that, I mean, we get to those basics of, how do I start my day? You know, all the phones, all that stuff, shut it down. And when you get that far into the layers of knowing who your who is, that is where you start giving them what they need to move forward. And not what you need or not what you think they need, but you know, that's the biggest thing, is a lot of entrepreneurs are like, oh, well, my group needs this and no other competition's out there. And I'm like, well, have you looked into so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so? And I start rattling off names and they're like, oh, they do that too? I'm like, yeah, you got to dig a little bit. They're not just going to show up in Facebook. They could be on Google. They could be SEO. They could be inside another platform, another group, another Mighty Networks, or anything else. And unless you have looked at all of your Yahoo research, your SEM rushes, all of these apps that gives a lot of data, you don't really know who's playing inside the water. So, and that's really how I, you know, a lot of my group is in networks that I've never been in before. And so those networks that I didn't even know existed until I started researching, who is that woman? That woman that is an alpha dominant. She is a hustler. She wants to push. She's just not sure where to begin. And that not sure where to begin can be overwhelming. So
I love that. I could have used you in 2010.
I was still inside a room stall.
I know. I'm not even kidding. I could have definitely used you in 2010 because I was on that hamster wheel and I actually worked myself to death. So, and had a cardiac arrest. And so that's when everything switched for me. And I finally gave myself permission to maybe take care of myself a little bit. So, but it stinks when you have to get to the point where everything shuts down. I mean, dying is not a good place to start your journey. You know, committing suicide, being so frustrated and so stressed out and so overwhelmed and so inundated by what you think you should do versus what is really right for you. And it takes a lot. And so I think it's incredible that you're helping women to understand that, hey, you get to decide what you are going to be and what you want to do and who you're going to listen to. And mostly you just need to listen to yourself. So that's amazing.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, is that I think giving that permission, some women just need that permission to say, you know what, I need 10 minutes to myself, guys, without you barging into the door, or that I just got out of the shower and I'm trying to get dressed. I mean, these are things like even having kids, I had to learn to say, okay, here's my space. And I'm the oldest of 7, so I wasn't used to even having space from the time I was like 4. So to really stand up and have that voice to go, you know what? Oh my gosh, I could actually say this. And, you know, you talk about a heart condition. My heart, I started doing herbs and supplements and everything in 2017 in the same process of going through grief. And I saw this several different MDs, and they're like, yeah, you know, my husband's sitting across the way from a white coat, and normally I'm more vocal to that point in 2017, 5 years of growth, that my husband's like, my wife's not dying. And I was like, babe, hold on. Could you just hear out this individual? Could you please just listen to him?
Mm-hmm.
Or you want to storm off. That I was like, no, okay, we're going to do the herbs. And they tasted like mud, like I was licking dirt. It was gross. Mm-hmm. But it like helped tremendously move through that space because, but I had to be transparent enough with me to say to my husband, babe, I really think something's wrong. I'm really exhausted. I don't know why I can't function. And, you know, I went through some MRIs and all that stuff. And they're like, your brain's working. I'm like, well, good. Put something else with it. And I think that as women, we caretake so much that sometimes it's really difficult for us to sit back until we have a traumatic event, 2010, that we go, hey, you know, let's start taking care of me. And so in that space, it is almost that suffocation feeling that you experience as a woman, especially, that you then say, okay, I have to do this because my life is going to depend on it, and everyone around me will depend on it. So, yeah. But it is kind of that realization period that it's really hard for some gals, and some gals it's a lot easier. Some gals do have traumatic events that come into my group that say, Lise, this is, you know, and they show pictures of abuse, and they show pictures of what they've gone through in open heart surgeries and all this stuff, that I go, you know what, let's move someone else forward with us. And so that's how this momentum push has started. We're in like a really awesome movement period right now inside my group, which is they're moving faster than I am, where to me, I'm like, okay, guys, I'm coming. Which is it's
that's awesome.
Yeah, I would have never thought 2017 that it would be where it's at. And it boils down to just serving unconditionally. So
that is huge advice. Amazing.
Thank you.
Love it. And I love your group, and I love your stuff on Instagram. And I mean, all those likes, they're coming from me.
Yeah, well, I love
your stuff. It's so, I mean, but you have such a, it's, you know, branding, but it's also, it's so you, as I mean, I can spot your stuff a mile away because it's just so you, and that stands out. And I think that that's incredible. And, you know, if one person can learn from that, like me, that is worthwhile. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you better tell everybody how they can find you.
Yes. So my main page is Alpha Warrior Women, and all of my URL, all that fun stuff. And the movement is the Warrior Sister Movement. So we are in arms, and we're in arms to create a massive change to really bring women together and to uplift one another. We have like the strict code of morals and ethics that we support and we love, and we are working with courage and strength. And so the courage and strength to always move forward. So all of my, main stuff, we have our journals inside the Alpha Warrior Women page, and we have closed groups behind the scenes. A lot more women are more comfortable inside that space to share anything personal. And we keep it very much under wraps, that nothing is to be shared outside of the group. And we keep very much in that standard that my husband doesn't even know inside the group. He's not in the group, and therefore he's not privileged to know what is inside the group either. So, yeah.
Doesn't need to.
And so with that being said, you can reach me through Messenger, you can reach me through email, phone, whatever's the easiest when it comes to all of that and stuff.
I love it. I absolutely love what you're doing with it. I've been through a similar training as Lisa has with the Certified Partner Program. And like I said, I was leaving corporate America and looking for something to do. And I will be the first to admit, I have not found my tribe yet, or my group, or how I'm here to serve. But that's part of the journey. I think for each of us, it's a journey to figure out what am I here for? Who am I here to serve? Because in the past, it was all I was serving, the people I was in business with, or my jobs, or my kids. And as moms, and now I only have 2 kids, so I can't imagine yours is like tenfold my burden for that. But when stuff's going on with our kids, we do take the back seat, and we have to remember that, it's like they tell you on the airplane, you better put your oxygen mask on first, because if you drop over and pass out, you're not going to be able to put it on your child. So put yours on first and then do your kids. And like you said, I don't know why we women think we need permission to take care of ourselves, but it's almost like we need somebody to say, you hear the message all the time, take care of yourself, take care of yourself, but it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other until something happens, or somebody says, yeah, you better take care of yourself. You better fix your relationship with yourself before you can have a relationship with anyone else. But it falls on.
And the fastest way to find that relationship with you is to sit, and whether it's devotion or meditation, whatever the name has to be given, but sit with yourself and watch your thought processes. Are your thoughts loving toward yourself? Because if your thoughts are really damaging and self-sabotaging, it really boils down to how would you caretake anyone else when you can't even love you yet? There is a book that's like one of our main books. I actually have like 4 of these with permission to share.
I love it.
So Dr. Jacqueline Plemez is one of my favorite authors. She comes from the psychology base. I'm really happy I have this extra book in here, but it really talks about that inner critic, and she really addresses the inner critic inside being a mom and being a business owner and being a working woman that takes care of, whether she's taking care of other clients or just doing a DIY type situation. But she goes through the different layers of women that we have. And a story from this book, when I first got it, I come from a Catholic Baptist.
Lisa, you froze. Lisa. Oh, we both live out in the country. Okay, Lisa's frozen. She's from a Catholic Baptist background. Oh, my internet is unstable, it says. You froze just for a minute, but now you're back. You're okay, good. Baptist background. I got that part.
Okay, so the background on this book, I went into Barnes & Noble and I saw the exterior, and I was like, oh my gosh, if I get this book and bring this book home, what are my kids going to think? Because this is like cuss words on the front of the book. And I remember when I first started reading this book, it was so hilarious because it talks about the difference between women and men. Mm-hmm. And men can spend a whole day outside doing all this outside work, and they come inside, they look in a mirror and they're like, yeah, and they're pumping and they're doing their thing. Women, we have this issue of, we'll go look.
Oh, come on, internet. There is no one else on my internet.
Can you see me now?
Back again, yep.
That's perfect.
I live out in the boondocks. I don't know if I mentioned that. I live out in the country, so I don't always have.
So do I.
So we've got double country.
Yeah, so we had to actually install different cable lines for us. It was crazy.
It's amazing. We've had every possible technological internet provider known to man where we live, but I'm in the process of moving, so it's not going to matter much longer, but for right now it matters. Okay, so we were talking about the layers in the book and the difference between women.
So with women, we self-sabotage so much that for us to even look in the mirror sometimes was the hardest thing. And when I first started reading this book, I was like, oh my gosh, I removed a mirror out of my bedroom because I just would critique myself so much. And I was too short. I didn't lose my weight fast enough after a baby. I didn't eat all these stupid things where my husband's outside he's a general contractor, and he'd be outside and he'd be smelling and coming in with a white t-shirt that was now brown. Carhartts are disgusting. Where he would be like, gosh, I look good. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yes, honey.
Yeah.
Yep.
But this book is a great, great starter for any woman to really say, you know what, I need to love me. And loving me is going to cause a ripple effect for your kids and for your husband, for your spouse, for your friends, for everyone, your PTA groups, whatever you do, it's going to cause a ripple effect. And so I think personally, when you choose to love yourself, and it's a choice, you can either really love yourself and love yourself on being pure in inner love, or you can love the self of the ego that likes to throw out whatever, or you can just strip it all away and say, this is who I am. And that is probably the best way and the fastest way to grow the business of who you want to serve, is just strip it all away and say, this is who I am. This, I've done lives and messages with my hair up like this, with my cowgirl boots on, and my group just loves me who I am. So
I love that. It's a lot easier to be who you are than to try to be somebody else, because I did that for a lot of years, where you had to put on the suit and be the corporate person and act and say and be a certain way, but I was always miserable. So it's a lot more fun to just hang out and show up as who I am in my pajamas with my messy hair and my wonky eyes, because I have wonky eyes and all that stuff. And who cares? Because, I think the hardest thing is we compare ourselves to other people, but we don't have the whole story. We forget that nobody is in our skin, and we can only be a best version of ourselves by continually improving and just getting a better handle on who we are and what we're here for every day, a little bit every day. So.
Yeah. And when it comes to growing the business, I mean, if someone's at that point that they're like, oh my gosh, I've kind of plateaued, I would really look at introspect and say, okay, what have I changed from where I was? Journaling has been like my lifesaver for the last 7 years, that I can look back at like all these different chapters of life of, wow, if I got through that, this is really, really easy.
I love it.
And by being able to compare your journey with your own journey of now is so much better than saying, gosh, Sharon has like these great animals and I don't have them, or that person has such an awesome home and I don't have that. Well, there might be so much underlayer that you don't even know. And that home could have been a generational type home. That could have been, and unless you know the story, which no one ever really knows the whole story of anything.
True.
If you can look at your own journey and say, gosh, I've grown so much. I look at things like even like the certified partner. I had my deal here, even with the certified partner, all the technical stuff. And I just like closed up a client that launched her product and all great. I'm absolutely ecstatic for. But I did get that feedback of, Lise, you spoke like in this technological stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, my intent was never there. Mm-hmm. Because I remember in 2016 sitting inside this huge group of humans, and I came from the horse stall, literally on a flight, and I didn't even know what I was going to. First marketing event ever. Wow. And I stood up there. Yeah. But,
amazing.
And so I really backtrack, and I really go back to how do I bring someone forward versus being too far, and feeling that feeling of, wait a second, I don't even know all of the pieces of the funnel yet, or I don't. And so I over explain sometimes because I never want someone to ever feel like, where then I've also had people say, oh yeah, I know all about it. I'm like, okay, good. So.
Awesome. All right. We got the site. We got a ton of advice. Is there any last thing or word of wisdom you'd like to give us? I love find the pain that you can solve. That's amazing. And focus on that and dig down and go for deeper layers than just the surface thing. unless you want just a surface business, which isn't very satisfying.
No.
I would suspect that your women are an incredible group of very deep thinkers, not the surface, superficial, money and flashy stuff people. I wouldn't
No,
think
and what I love about my group, this is like my favorite part. The women I serve, they are vast. I mean, from no income to high scale 8-figure women. And the common thread is that they all want to move forward. So like, we're not inside this certain demographics of money or income or anything. It is more so, hey, I lost myself somewhere and I really need to pull myself back.
Love that.
And so when you zero in on that bottom layer of pain, that seventh depth of who is that person, if I'm going to stand up and I'm going to share my most intimate heart things that I've gone through, who is that person that I would share it with? And I would share it with someone else that could say, you know what? I know. I spent 18 years in prison. I came from this experience. And I'm like, wow. And here I thought my minuscule little thing compared to the 18 years of prison.
Mm-hmm.
However, that woman to me is huge depth. And she is amazing. She's an amazing, amazing woman. And she's an amazing human. And she shares her story without any cover anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings forward other women.
Love
so that's the ripple effect. When you understand exactly who you're going to leverage forward, they're going to leverage other people forward that you'll never touch. I mean, I would never touch the majority of some of my little spider webs and networks that are inside that now women have taken on their own group. And now it's like, we're going very wide right now and building up. So it's a very interesting dynamic where I'm like, wow, here we go.
And here we go.
Yeah, I'm sitting on the roller coaster.
It's a good roller coaster though. And it's a roller coaster of your own making. And that's why it feels so different and so exciting and so fun.
It is exciting, and that's the big thing is that when you know who you serve 7 layers deep, you will wake up at 2:00 in the morning to say, oh my gosh, I didn't put together the whole day yet. And you'll be out there doing it. Mm-hmm. And when the haters come, you'll realize, you know what? That's their luggage. That's not me. And you can pick up and move forward. So
that's so true. I don't have very many haters, but I get some really pungent ones every once in a while. And then at the first couple, it's kind of like when you get laid off or lose a job. The first couple times it hurts, but then you realize it's got nothing to do with you. It's just about them. And once you make that little switch, it's like they don't have any power over you anymore, and it doesn't even hurt your feelings anymore. So it's kind of like a Grant Cardone thing going on right now. I want haters. Mm-hmm. Because if I get some people that are coming in saying, hey, why did you do this or whatever? It makes me reflect and go, why did I do that logo that way? Mm-hmm. Why did I say that quote? Why did I, because then it can leverage me forward versus just dismissing. And if I can get them, lately I've not gotten any, which I'm like, okay. But I think it's because we've risen so far up that all of that was like part of the journey that I had to test myself. Mm-hmm. Are you going to continue? And that reminder of a stakes horse that Monique and I put together and pictures that we have together, that was my reminder. You know what? It's about her. Mm-hmm. And serving women that feel that overwhelm. And how can we backtrack and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. So it is an amazing ride. And when you get big and when you get really loud, when the haters show up, know that you're creating an impact. And by creating an impact, it's one voice, and then you project with others, and those others will carry it. Nice.
Big net.
Very nice. Love it. Thank you so much, Lisa, for spending time with us today. I so appreciate it. And you need to take care of yourself.
Yes. I'm going to go grab something to eat and have the rest of my day.
All right. Thank you. You have a great day. We'll talk soon, Lisa.
Thank you. Bye, Sharon.
Bye.